Hi, my name's Gina. My friend Lucy asked if I would speak to you today on the subject of grief. Um, I came into my season of grief after the loss of my child. When I say child, it doesn't matter what age they are because no matter how old they are, they're still your child. In my case, my son was 22 years old and he was living in Houston, Texas with his dad. He was working at a machine shop in which he was programming the jobs there for the owner, and he was doing great. Not long after he had been there in Houston, Texas, he developed this illness, whatever it was. We never knew. We never knew what it was. They did multiple tests on him. Initially, they thought he had gallbladder um, inflammation. They had planned surgery the following Monday. However, after further tests, they discovered that it wasn't gallbladder problem. So they decided they wanted to do exploratory surgery. After opening him up and looking for twisted intestines or perforated intestines or something to explain why this young man of 22 years of age who was otherwise healthy would suddenly become so sick. So they closed him back up, and after further tests, they determined that he had streptococcus pneumonia, and now he was septic. It wasn't long after that, I would say maybe 4 days or so, maybe 5 days, that he just slowly began to deteriorate. He had to be incubated because he could no longer produce enough oxygen for his body, which he just did not like. In the middle of the night, one night, he pulled the tube out, and the very next day, I went in to find my son strapped to a bed, and just miserable. Finally, that day, they had decided they were going to do another test on him, which was for meningitis. When they tested him for meningitis, they determined that it wasn't meningitis that he had, and that they were going to continue to run more tests. Well, when he was wheeled out of the room, he looked to me and he said, "No more, no more, Mom, no more test." It was almost as if he had resolved himself to whatever the Lord had whispered into his ear, because the Lord had told me that I will never leave you or forsake you. But I thought that message was for my son. Little did I know that that message was actually for me. It was as though my son knew that he was going home to be with the Lord, and he had resolved himself to that and had surrendered to that. On August 15th, they were continuing to run tests, doing blood work, and they asked if we would leave until at least 1 o'clock so that they could complete these tests. Upon return to the hospital, we entered the hospital. I was with my other two sons and my brother, my youngest brother, Ernesto. And when we walked in, we heard the words "cold blue, cold blue, cold blue" just over and over again. And then when we walked a little further, we realized that it was my son's room that they were all running towards. And the light above his room was just flashing. And the nurses had crash carts. And they entered his room and they were frantically trying to save him. I just didn't want to believe it. I wanted to run. I just didn't want to believe it. And when I say that this is a hard thing, it's only because I'm limited in how to express how very, very difficult this situation was. Then to see my son, my oldest son, 22 years old, laying on a bed with machines hooked up to him, being shocked, and his numbers were dropping. And then I watched my other sons and I saw their faces, and I saw Chris, my middle son, begin to pace, and just like he just wanted to run. He couldn't take it anymore. And then I saw my younger son just full of tears and bewildered and just outside of himself. He just could not believe that this was happening to his older brother. However, when everything was said and done and the doctors called his time of death, everyone left the room, and the only ones left in the room were myself, my sons, and my brother. When I turned to look, I seen that my youngest son had written on the board in Steve's room, "I love you, Steve. I love you." And then he began to ask me. He says, "Mom, I just want to know one thing. I just want to know one thing." He says, "Where is he at? Where's Steve at right now? Where is he?" To which I told him, I said, "Jonathan, you can believe that your brother is in heaven with Jesus right now. Right now, he is in the presence of Jesus, whole, complete, and healthy. And that one day, because we have all accepted Jesus into our heart, we have made that important decision for ourselves that one day our family will be reunited again, and we will be reunited with Steve." He says, "That's all I wanted to know, Mom. That's all I wanted to know." And then I want to tell you, this is the part where, as a mother, you just want to be where he is at, where your child is at, is exactly where you want to be. Does that mean that I wanted to die? I wanted to die. I felt like I was dying. And I didn't believe that I could ever make it back from that place. I didn't know how I could even go on. And again, let me tell you, this was in Houston. I live in San Bernardino, California. So that meant that I had to get my son's body from Houston, Texas, all the way back to San Bernardino, California. The day that we were about to fly out, we had made the arrangements. I was at the airport, and I literally saw them as the airport officials, as they were putting my son's body in the hull of the plane. I couldn't take it. All I was doing was crying and weeping, and I just wanted to scream. I just couldn't take it. And all around me were people going about their business as if though they didn't have a care in the world. Nobody noticed me. I went to the bookstore just to find anything to read, to keep myself occupied so that nobody would ask me any questions while I was on the long flight back home. Well, I don't think it was coincidence, but I ran across a book, and the book, it was a tiny little book, and it was by C.S. Lewis, and it was about, the title of the book is A Grief Observed. Well, let me tell you, I read that book from cover to cover, probably at least twice while I was on that plane, and that ministered to me. Because in this book, C.S. Lewis is extremely raw about his own grief at the loss of his wife to cancer. He screamed at God. He was angry at God. His faith was challenged. He didn't even know if he believed what he believed anymore. And let me tell you, that's where I was at. Did I still believe that there was a God? Even though I was saying, yes, I believe. In my heart and in my head, I wanted to say, no, I don't. Lord, I hate you. I'm angry with you, Lord, for taking my son. Why would you heal another mother's daughter that I prayed over, but you didn't do that for my own son? And after reading the book, I realized that, God had his plans for Stephen, and his plans were fulfilled. And he still had plans for me. And I know the way God works. And I knew he was going to use this as a testimony for his glory. I want to say today that yes, I still believe. And yes, even you can get past the pain that seems insurmountable, that you could not ever get over, get through. But the only way to do that is to press in and press on, press into the things of God. Don't wait. Don't prolong it. Allow those that are around you to minister to you. Allow those that want to be next to you, be next to you. Allow those that are in the church to pray for you. And most of all, look for opportunities to minister to others, because in ministering to others, you minister to yourself and you begin to heal. I hope this helps someone out there. Thank you, and God bless.